The following program paid for by Lifespan Wealth Management. Providing financial advice since 1993. It's time for Your Money with Sherry Goss, Randy Goss, and Jonathan Eisner. And now from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Good morning, Middle Georgia, and thanks for tuning in to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing we do is provide retirement planning advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. So if you're looking for an investment advisor, call our office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation.
Lifespan Wealth Management has offices in Macon and Warner Robins for your convenience and has been serving Middle Georgia for over 30 years. You can learn more about our services by visiting our website at retirerelax.com. And while you're on our site, go to the special reports section where you'll find several reports that are available to you for free. You can also sign up to receive our digital feeds, which are short videos providing great information relevant to retirement, investing, and matters that affect your money.
We also offer seminars to the community at no cost. So if you're in need of a guest speaker for your church or civic organization, give us a call, and together we can decide what topics you would like us to present to your group. Again, our contact number is 478-922-8100. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. This past Tuesday, November 11th, was Veterans Day. You know, from bridges to breakthroughs, our nation's defense has always and will always depend on the men and women who serve in our military, as well as the businesses and communities that stand with them. There is a sacred trinity that supports this great nation. First of all, there is the human foundation. Every generation of service member has paid a price that cannot be repaid in full. In the Revolutionary War, 1 in 4 Continental soldiers died of disease or exposure before seeing combat. In the Civil War, the Union Army alone suffered 360,000 casualties, more than in all other U.S. wars combined until Vietnam. World War II demanded 405,000 American lives and left 670,000 wounded. Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan added their own tallies, each name a reminder that national security is not just an abstract idea, but a ledger of sacrifice. Yet the ledger is incomplete without the civilians who sustain it. During World War II, the arsenal of democracy employed 17 million workers in the defense industries. Women riveted aircraft while teenagers harvested crops under the Victory Garden program. Today, 1.3 million active duty personnel are supported by 800,000 reservists, 700,000 Defense Department civilians, and roughly 2 million defense contractor employees, most of whom will never wear a uniform, but whose labor keeps satellites in orbit, drones in the air, and beans, bullets, and Band-Aids going to the people who need them.
Second, business has never been a junior partner in this endeavor. The Continental Congress chartered privateers to harass British shipping. The Union Pacific Railroad received 20 million acres in land grants to bind the nation together. In the 20th century, the relationship matured into a formal military-industrial complex that Dwight Eisenhower both warned against and relied on. Consider 3 snapshots with regard to how the civilian might have assisted the military. During World War I, the DuPont Company converted its powder mills to produce 40% of the Allies' explosives, scaling output from 8 million pounds in 1914 to 450 million pounds by 1918. And during the Cold War, Lockheed's Skunk Works delivered the U-2 in 9 months and the SR-71 in 3 years, feats impossible without profit incentives and risk-tolerant capital provided by the government. And in the 21st century, Elon Musk's SpaceX reusable Falcon 9 had reduced launch costs from $18,000 per kilogram to under $3,000, ensuring the Pentagon can replenish satellite constellations faster than adversaries can destroy them. These examples are not anomalies. They are the norm. The Department of Defense's 2024 budget request included $145 billion for procurement and $164 billion for research and development. These sums flow primarily to private firms. In return, these firms deliver capabilities that no government bureaucracy could match at speed or scale.
Third, communities are the quiet force multiplier. Fort Bragg, which is now Fort Liberty, sustains 57,000 troops, but also pumps $11 billion annually into North Carolina's economy. San Diego's naval complex supports 350,000 jobs and generates $49 billion in economic activity. Robins Air Force Base has over 22,000 personnel with a direct economic impact of $4.2 billion in the central Georgia area in 2024, plus an additional $5.5 billion annually to Georgia's overall economy. But it's not just about the dollars flowing into the community. It's about the interconnectedness that takes place even if you don't realize that connection. The mom and pop stores that open because there's a need for a product or service due to growth in the local area, they are not a coincidence. They are the fruits of decades of shared investment in people and in places. The bond runs deeper than dollars. When national emergencies arise, the military often steps back in to assist the local communities with life-saving equipment and expertise. It's not because they have to. It's because of the decades of connectedness that they have with the communities. There are many examples of this, but think of Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Hugo, the flood of '94 right here in Middle Georgia, and the list goes on.
Yep. So where do we go from here? On July 4th, 2026, the U.S. will be 250 years young. And this past Veterans Day was not a holiday. It is a reckoning. It asks what we owe those who have given everything and what we must give to ensure that the sacrifice was not in vain. This is simple in outline. It is easy to write down. It's easy to create a stump speech, yet difficult in execution. A nation needs to be strong enough to build bridges sturdy enough to carry the weight of its history and breakthroughs bold enough to outpace any adversary. We cannot allow the walls to be destroyed from within. For another 250 years, America's defense will rely on the same trinity: service members who hold the front line and fight if necessary, businesses that build, and communities that endure. The task is to keep the trinity strong, solid, and united. And thank you for your service.
Very good.
I do want to point out that, Randy, you served time in the military, in the Air Force.
32
Both
years.
of your kids
Yes.
served time in the military. And the older I get, the more I appreciate Veterans Day, because my life has been easy. You know, relatively speaking, to somebody who has served time or somebody who's been on the front lines and protects us, we'll just never understand how much is sacrificed. And so I appreciate you and I appreciate your family.
And thank you. But we in the military always look and we say thank you, but we always say thank you back, because without your support, it's very difficult to do what we do.
Well, I think a lot of it is underappreciated. Anyway, so what happened this week? President Trump said Monday that he plans to use tariff revenue to issue $2,000 payments to low and middle income Americans. Any remaining funds directed toward paying down the nation's massive debt, which stands at around $38 trillion. It was said later in the week that the $2,000 payments would go to households making $100,000 or less, which obviously takes a lot of households off the table. Of course, this is all just words for the time being as we sort through the legality of the imposed tariffs for now, which could obviously have an effect on the payments. Artificial intelligence giant OpenAI on Monday announced a new initiative that aims to make it easier for service members and veterans to use AI tools when they're transitioning from military service into the workforce. The ChatGPT maker announced that service members within 12 months of separation or retirement, or any veteran within their first year of leaving military service, can access a free year of access to ChatGPT Plus, the company's subscription-based tool.
That's very cool.
Very nice.
I thought so too.
And I'm sure you've heard about this in the news, but Trump just floated a 50-year mortgage. But is it a good idea? While Trump's proposal is light on details, administration officials say a 50-year mortgage would lower monthly payments, helping more Americans currently priced out of the market. But homeowners would end up paying far more in interest over time. If you were to take a $450,000 home, for example, with a 30-year fixed mortgage at 6.25%, the monthly payments would be about $2,771. Over the life of the loan, the homeowner would pay more than $547,000 in interest. However, with a 50-year loan at the same rate, the monthly payment would fall to about $2,452, but the total interest would balloon to about just over $1 million, or an 87% increase in the total interest paid. A 50-year loan carries a higher risk of default because it stretches so long. Lenders may charge higher interest rates as a result, and since it would take borrowers much longer to build equity, a drop in housing price could leave more homeowners owing more than their properties are even worth.
So I think the idea is to make a house payment cheaper than rent. Still, I don't like the commitment, as what if the buyer loses their job or becomes disabled? It all comes down to how fast they could sell the place when they want to, and I don't like the 50-year mortgage idea.
Yeah, but the average first-time home buyer stays in a home about between 2 and 5 years. If the first-time home buyer could qualify for a lower rate and save money over rent, would the interest paid matter compared to rent? It's lost anyway. The difference in the 30-year and the 50-year mortgage cost Corey mentioned above is $319 a month. If that amount could be set aside in an account earning about 6% interest, you could end up with about $12,400 over the same amount of time, say 3 years.
Maybe sell the place and then buy something else cheaper.
And if this is a program, I'm not saying that the homeowner has control over that $12,400, but if the house appreciates a little bit and they could sell it, and then the mortgage company could move them into a 30-year versus a 50, then they really start realizing a little bit of a bump in their equity a lot faster over the 50-year, and then that $12,000 is applied to the principal. I mean, there's a in my mind there's a glimmer of a program here that could be beneficial to people that are getting priced out of the market right now.
Very good.
Then if the payments have been made on time, the lender could possibly convert to a lower term, or the value of the home could have increased like Randy just said, and they could sell and move into a 30-year with the saved money and the gains from the sale.
So we shall see if this actually happens.
Unfortunately, I think it's being proposed out of necessity because people can't afford homes. But Corey and I were talking about this week too. I think that people have become spoiled, our generation more so, and younger people, like they want the nice house now.
Exactly.
Yes, I don't get it.
And the nice house now is, what do we say the median home price is?
450 or something like that.
Get a fixer-upper that's a piece of junk like what we bought.
I mean, I know it was a different time, but in 2007, Kate and I bought our first house, which was $159,000. And I know it's different now. That same house is probably $250 now, but I mean, it was a beginner house.
Yeah.
It was a 1,500 square foot home, and I don't know. I think people in general just want too much too soon. So there's got to be some reversion to the mean of being able
Exactly.
to grow.
Completely.
Everyone looks at Pinterest and thinks they have to have.
Yes.
Yeah, that drives me
Yeah,
nuts.
but what people on Pinterest don't see is the mortgage bills and all the
Exactly.
bad stuff behind the
Oh, the
scene.
utilities and the maintenance and
Right.
the whole thing. So I watched a great interview with Mike Rowe, the Dirty Jobs guy, and he recently toured a data center. He talked to some electricians who worked there who were all in their 30s and making $240,000 a year. And they had each been poached 3 times in the past year for higher paying jobs. For 17 years, all he heard was that robots were coming to take your jobs, from welders to electricians, etc. Well, no. The classic trade jobs are in high demand, and it's redefining the job market and higher education. Jim Farley at Ford is talking about building his own trade school, which is what the founder of Ford originally did. We are living in interesting times with lots of opportunities for our young people to take advantage of. Next, I saw an interview with Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, one of the wealthiest men in the world, saying almost the same thing. He talked about the same problem and asked, why is a 17-year-old in Texas being trained in coding and able to get a job after several months of training and making $60,000 a year? Why aren't we investing in these opportunities that are here right now?
These guys are all correct. The problem is, for way too long, we've been told that college is how to get ahead, and now we've seen how that has played out. Too many people are graduating with degrees that don't pay enough to even live on. And if you have kids or grandkids in high school, please check out the Georgia Technical College offerings, and you can skip college to go right into a career, sometimes free of charge. Just search Hope Career Grant.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So, all right. After years of outsized stock market returns, it's time to reassess your portfolio risk exposure. If you haven't rebalanced your investment portfolio lately, it's worth doing it now. After years of strong gains, investors could have too much in equities and not enough in safe assets. Rebalancing restores your intended asset allocation. That is, how you divvy up your portfolio among stocks, bonds, and other assets. Say you built your portfolio with 60% stocks and 40% bonds. If you were never to rebalance, significant stock market returns could lead that ratio standing at leave it more like at a 90% to 10% over time. A portfolio based mostly on stocks, which comes with more volatility and risk. So, if you are in retirement or near it, you don't have the time to recover from a prolonged down market the way retirement savers in their 20s and 30s do. Remember that if you sell stocks that you hold in a taxable account, any gains on assets held for 1 year or less are subject to regular income tax rates. Profits on assets held longer than 1 year are considered long-term gains and face tax rates of 0, 15, or 20% depending on your income.
I meet with a lot of people who never look at their portfolio while they're working, but once they retire, they pay more attention, especially if they're taking distributions. I suggest as you get closer to retirement, contact your plan rep and ask them about your portfolio and if the holdings are still right for you, your age, and your goals. Another option is to come see one of us, and we will do the same for you, and there's no charge. We just need to be able to see what your options are.
Yeah, the good news about that is that a lot of 401ks now, we've talked about this, have target date funds. And remember, target date funds are mutual funds that are invested in accordance with a very specific time horizon, which is usually when your retirement is supposed to be, or the goal for it is. And as the client approaches retirement, the fund transitions to an increasingly conservative allocation so as not to take too much risk at or near retirement. So in a way, a lot of the concern that we're talking about people not rebalancing is kind of corrected itself. But we still most certainly see a lot of people whose allocations have gotten out of whack. Even just this week, I saw 2, and they need the rebalancing. So it is definitely still out there.
And I see a lot of people who are in a target date fund, but they're using the wrong date. Just recently, I met with someone who was 10 years from retirement, but her target date fund was set for this year,
I've seen a lot of that
making
too.
it a very conservative fund. So if you're in one of these, please do the research and see how your money is invested and make sure it's appropriate for where you are in life.
You know what I bet that is when we see that? I bet that's when the person signed up. They're
Yes.
like, oh, it's 2020 now, so I'll do the target date 2020 because nobody explains it to them anymore.
Exactly.
They have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, there's no advice.
Right. All right, switching gears, China's export restrictions on antimony, including a ban to the U.S. in December, have contributed to scarcity. At a mining site in Alaska, Rod Blakestad cracked open a shiny rock with his pick. He found quartz, a sign that rock may contain gold. But Blakestad, a veteran gold hunter, tossed the rock aside. He and his team of geologists are searching for something even more sought after, antimony, an obscure element widely used in the defense industry that is now at the center of the bitter U.S.-China trade fight. If we were looking for gold, we'd be high-fiving, he said. Until recently, antimony, which is often found in gold mines, was considered waste by gold miners. But that began changing last year when China put in place heavy restrictions on antimony exports, including banning all shipments to the U.S. in December, in retaliation for restrictions that Washington put on the export of American technology products to China.
And this is putting a squeeze on the defense companies, which use antimony to harden bullets and strengthen armor-penetrating projectiles. Antimony prices have quadrupled from 2 years ago, and supplies are now scarce, just as defense companies need to replenish stockpiles for armaments exhausted by the conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine.
All right. Last month, Xi Jinping and President Trump hammered out a truce in the trade war that has seen the two sides trade blows. China has choked off the supply for many critical minerals, some of which are used to make products such as cars, drones, and jet engines, in retaliation for U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports and U.S. restrictions on certain exports to China. Around 60% of the world's antimony is mined in China, with most of the rest coming from Russia, Tajikistan, and Myanmar. Under the truce, the White House said antimony shipments would resume. Beijing confirmed this, saying that it would relax its absolute ban on shipments to the U.S. for 1 year, though it has kept it in place and caused restrictions on military end use. Global antimony prices have remained elevated through last week. Now, antimony is emerging as an important test case of whether the U.S. can restore supply chains devastated by decades of Chinese dominance.
The U.S. hasn't been a significant miner of antimony for years. Now companies are dusting off sites in Alaska and Idaho that last produced antimony during the 20th century. The Defense Department is pouring money into jumpstarting these projects.
Blakestad's employer, United States Antimony, operates an antimony smelter in the U.S. In September, the government granted it a $245 million contract to supply antimony ingots to the National Defense Stockpile. But first, U.S. Antimony needs to get hold of the ore. Earlier this year, Chinese authorities intercepted one of the company's antimony shipments while it was transiting through a Chinese port on the way from Australia, holding it for months before releasing it. Chinese buyers who are searching for ore after production dwindled at a giant mine in China have been scooping up antimony around the world. Meanwhile, last year, U.S. Antimony stopped mining the material at its Mexico holdings, in part because cartels made operating there way too dangerous.
Yep, and now U.S. Antimony is making a big push to mine domestically, and it is turning to the vast potential of Alaska. The company acquired mineral releases around Fairbanks, guided by old geological bulletins indicating the presence of antimony at gold mines. Blake Stad, who has hunted for gold as far as Mali and Ghana, is famed for his role in the discovery of one of the U.S.'s largest gold mines. He's leading the company's Alaska exploration efforts. At the Mohawk mine, a disused site that still features a crumbling wooden gold processing mill, Blake Stad's team follow century-old collapsed mining tunnels that snake through the soil, signs that, decades ago, miners found seams of gold that might contain antimony. They look for hardy alder trees, which indicate an area that had been dug up for mining years ago. When they find a promising area, they dig new trenches and collect samples.
Yep. And in Montana, U.S. Antimony is expanding its smelter and restarting mining operations that it shut down in the 1980s because it couldn't compete with rock bottom prices that the Chinese had. Their CEO says they know that they can fix the problem and that the recent U.S.-China trade truce hasn't changed the company's plans to move forward with the Alaska project. Other companies are also digging. At the site called Treasure Creek near Fairbanks, Alaska, the Australian company Felix Gold has found high-grade surface deposits of antimony that gleam in the sunlight. The company says it is ready to start mining later this year if the permits come through. Felix Gold is also drilling hundreds of feet underground to map out the area's antimony deposits and may seek to dig a deeper mine. Everyone involved understands that the U.S. is going to have to secure its own supply chains.
Fairbanks antimony projects benefit from the fact that they aren't in remote areas. However, the proximity to one of Alaska's largest cities means dealing with residents unhappy with the proposed mines. Near the Treasure Creek project are yurts from which tourists view the northern lights. However, a bright light that illuminates Felix Gold's site now sometimes pierces the otherwise starlit night sky. Fearing that the situation will worsen as the project expands, Hube is preparing to set up a more distant site for Northern Lights viewing, which he estimates will cost around $200,000. You'd think they would have thought about this sort of thing before they started the project.
Who, the miners?
If it was a tourist site, yeah. I mean, seriously?
Yeah, they probably should have thought about that.
Yeah. Anyways, so when we visited Iceland and took the bus ride at midnight to see the Northern Lights, we would have been a little cranky if we couldn't have seen anything.
I imagine.
Because of the mining operation. Yeah.
Right. Speaking of China, how to tariff-proof your holiday shopping list. Half of Americans say they're, more likely than they were last year to purchase domestic-made products, according to MarketWatch survey. When retail stocks plummeted after President Trump announced his tariffs earlier in April, John McPhee remained calm. McPhee, the CEO of Chilowich, am I saying that right? Chilowich?
I think you are.
I think
Okay.
so.
A woven textile designer and manufacturer was comforted by the fact that 97% of the company's products are made entirely in the United States. I love these stories. The company's placemats and rugs are designed in New York and manufactured right here in Georgia using material sourced and woven in Alabama. McPhee said, when the tariffs came, the 3% of our products that we actually make in Asia, that part was a pain in the neck. But it didn't really matter. It was such a small part of the overall business.
Yeah, Chilowick's Nutcracker themed placemats are featured in the 12th edition of Made in America gift guide released Wednesday, which is created by the Alliance for American Manufacturing. The gift guide has taken on a new renaissance this holiday season as tariff-wary shoppers hunt for deals. Half of Americans say they are more likely than they were last year to purchase domestic-made products. Despite consumer sentiment nearing a record low, experts say Americans feeling the squeeze on their household budget still tend to prioritize spending on families around the holidays.
But in a globalized economy, shopping for 100% American-made goods is virtually impossible. While finally assembling may happen domestically, few products are made entirely of U.S. parts. Retailers often outsource cheaper labor overseas to make specialized materials or equipment, lowering the price tag on the finished product. While it's difficult for U.S. companies to completely avoid conflict from tariffs, they can better absorb tariff costs compared with stores that import most of their materials and products.
National Retail Federation chief economist Mark Matthews estimates more than 60% of tariff costs have been absorbed by U.S. businesses, while less than 25% have been passed on to the consumer. Matthews says manufacturers can't continue to absorb all the costs, but at the same time, they just can't pass the costs on to consumers willy-nilly without thinking about the impact on competition. Because tariff rates vary for different products from different countries, consumers might notice more inflation for some holiday purchases than for others. In the MasterCard Economics Institute 2025 holiday report, they found that products with the highest tariff rates of 25% include leather gloves, artificial Christmas trees, and Christmas ornaments. Those were the top 3 on the list. Those listed with the lowest tariff rates at 5% and under included books, chocolate, and Christmas tree lights. So there you go. Give everybody a book for Christmas.
There you go.
Gift cards, experiences, services, and digital subscriptions are inherently tariff-proof because they aren't physical imported goods.
There you go.
I can tell you how excited my kids would be with books as gifts for the holidays.
The MasterCard Economics Institute expects higher than normal use of gift cards over the holidays. They don't eliminate tariff-related inflation. They can help gift givers spend within their budgets. Experts also recommend wrapping up the holiday shopping as early as possible. Some retailers ordered fewer quantities this year because of tariffs, so they might sell out quicker.
Did you say Barbie doll? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's my suggestion. Don't exchange gifts at all. Instead, have games to play and puzzles to put together and a funny movie to watch. Everyone brings some food and a fun thing to do, and you just celebrate without having to spend all this money on anything. Just a thought. We stopped exchanging gifts years ago. It's been, 10, 15 years ago?
At least.
At
More
least.
like 20.
And it really cuts back on the stress.
It
Plus-
really does cut back on the stress.
Plus, I don't have to return all the stuff I get that I don't want. It's like ridiculous.
Saving
it's
a
like,
trip.
Yeah, people know not to give Sherry gifts.
Yeah, I don't need gifts.
I know this might be kind of
You okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, just choking up a bit. Might be a little bit off the norm, and I know that many people are against giving cash for the holidays because they think it's impersonal and they doesn't really show a whole lot of effort when it comes to giving a gift. But it's something that I do. It might just be because I like receiving it for Christmas, but it just feels like it gives you the most freedom as far as gifts go. You don't feel the pressure of having to use something that you didn't want just because someone gave it to you as a gift. And I'm also someone that's against gift cards. Not only does it
Yeah, I
restrict
don't like gift
you,
cards either.
it restricts you in a sense of you have to use it at a certain place. And you're just trading money for an equal amount of credit at a specific store. Like I feel like gift cards should be sold at a discount because you're giving up your money's usability.
Yeah, a lot of them are. But still, you're stuck with having to go to that place. Yeah, I agree.
You've been listening to Your Money, brought to you by Lifespan Wealth Management, proudly serving Middle Georgia for over 30 years. Our mission? Helping folks just like you plan for a secure and stress-free retirement. Need a trusted financial advisor? Call us today at 478-922-8100 and schedule your complimentary consultation at our Macon or Warner Robins office. Want to learn more? Visit us anytime at retirerelax.com. Because when you plan smart, you can retire and relax. And here's something extra. We offer free educational seminars for the community. If your group needs a guest speaker, give us a call and let's make it happen. That's 478-922-8100. Now, let's get back to the show.
So I love this guy. Warren Buffett feels better about the second half of his life than the first. His best advice for living well. Warren Buffett will no longer write the letters that accompany his firm, Berkshire Hathaway's annual reports, nor will he field questions at the company's annual shareholder meeting, he wrote in a letter published on Monday. As the British would say, I'm going quiet, he wrote, sort of.
Even after Greg Abel takes the reins at Berkshire, as the Berkshire CEO, at year-end, Buffett will continue to share a Thanksgiving message with shareholders and anyone else who's interested in reading it. Over his 95 years, Buffett has earned a reputation not only as a legendary investor, but as someone with the secrets to live a better life. In his most recent letter, Buffett took a second to look back and assured his fans that they still have time to do and get the things they want. My advice, he said, don't beat yourself up over past mistakes. Learn at least a little from them and move on. It's never too late to improve. In his letter, Buffett riffed on one of his long-standing pieces of life advice. Consider your legacy and work backward. One route, Buffett said, is to imitate those people you most admire. Choose your heroes very carefully and then emulate them. You'll never be perfect, but you can always be better. Greatness does not come about through accumulating great amounts of money. When you help someone in any of thousands of ways, you help the world. Kindness is costless, but also priceless.
I love that.
I love all these quotes. Regardless of your aims, Buffett wrote, you're unlikely to go wrong following the golden rule by treating other people, regardless of their situation, the way you would want to be treated. This is one of the richest guys on the planet.
Yes.
With all these good, wholesome.
He's just a nice guy.
He is. I love
It
it.
makes me want to take some of these phrases and just paint them around the top of my office
Yeah.
walls.
Right.
Go
Randy,
for it.
you got a
for it.
project for this weekend.
I don't need another project. She's told me to slow down. So
Well, now you're going to paint her office.
all right. You can afford a new home, or not. You can't afford a home. You just have to know where to look. Our first home was a wreck, and we bought it cheap, and we lived in it while we fixed it up. And if you're frustrated with the cost of housing, you may want to look into foreclosures and other homes that just have been unloved. Some people just don't know how to maintain a home, and when they decide to sell it, they are forced to sell it at a discount.
Or they let the wrong people rent.
Yes.
That destroy it.
They destroy it. So I went to HUD.com and searched for Macon, Georgia, and there are 737 foreclosures now in the Macon area. And first, with regards to foreclosures, if you were to show up on the courthouse steps the day of the auction, you should understand that this is the riskiest way to purchase a home because it is usually sold as is without inspection, and the auction typically requires a cash payment on the same day. A better way might be to work with the banks and find pre-foreclosures or bank-owned properties, or REOs. When the home is in pre-foreclosure, the owner is motivated, and it could be a win-win situation because it allows the homeowner to salvage their credit to some degree while you get a discounted price. And we purchased our lake property this way, and we were able to negotiate the deal with the seller and the lender in a three-way call, and you could call it a four-way call if you include the realtor. And the deal was inked in less than 2 hours.
And we saved about $55,000.
That's right. And a good tip would be to build yourself a small informal team before you just jump into trying to buy these kind of properties. Find a realtor or two who is willing to give you a call when they run across a good deal. One is experienced in foreclosures, a home inspector, a lender, and a real estate attorney. Do your due diligence, and that includes conducting a title search to verify the property's title and ensure that that there are no outstanding liens or unpaid taxes. And that would include homeowners' fees or outstanding other debts that could be your responsibility once you close on the property. Research comparable sales. Don't assume a foreclosure is an automatic bargain. Compare that property with the sales in the neighborhood. Perform a thorough inspection of the home with an inspector if you are not an experienced person with how a home is supposed to be put together and operate. After you've done your due diligence, you can calculate your estimated cost to rehab the home and then draft an offer on the home that will hopefully provide you with a profit on the back end. And remember that it will always cost you more to rehab the house than you expect, so add an item for the unexpected.
That's well said. When we bought our first fixer-upper house, we didn't know how to do a lot of things, and we'd go to Lowe's or Home Depot, and the people there would tell us what to do and how to do it. It was fun to learn, and it paid off over the years. So,
Yep. And I was lucky. My father, he was a very handy guy, and luckily on our first house, he always showed up at the right time.
Yes.
Usually when
electrical work.
Yeah,
he helped with that big time.
HVAC, electrical, roofing. He always was there to help us figure things out.
Speaking of roofing, I remember being on the top of the roof and being terrified. I'm not sure what I was doing on the top of the roof, but for some reason I had to be up there. That was the worst part of the whole
I
thing.
think you were carrying parts of a bundle of shingles up there.
Yeah,
for us.
that was not good.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyway,
all righty.
Okay.
John, do you have anything to add to the housing, Corey?
I do more cosmetic stuff, so I guess I've put up extra walls, closed off areas that didn't opened up areas. But I personally have not yet, at least, renovated a house on my own or gotten into that.
You're totally capable.
But Corey, I've worked with you in remodeling that we've done here in the office, and I will say that you're not abashed to swinging a hammer and
learning,
and that's what it's all about.
Yep.
Right.
What do you have to say about my abilities of that kind of thing, Randy?
Stay away from the sharp, spinny things.
Stay away from hammers, manual labor,
No, stay away from saws, at least to start with.
or just all of it.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Call somebody.
Yeah, I'll call you and Corey. All right. Nearly 900,000 new homeowners are underwater on their mortgages, signaling a troubling shift in the housing market. 875,000 mortgage holders, or 1.6% of all mortgage holders, are underwater on their mortgages, the highest rate in 3 years. Nearly 90% of underwater mortgage holders borrowed in the last 3.5 years, with 2/3 using FHA or VA loans. Austin, Texas, saw home prices fall 4.6% in the past year and 22% down from their May 2022 peak, with nearly 7% of mortgages underwater. A homeowner is underwater on the mortgage when they owe more on the mortgage than their home is actually worth. Home values in some parts of the country, like Austin, have fallen over the past year. Sharp-eyed homeowners in some areas have already noticed a drop in their home's value as measured by real estate platform Zillow. I think it's called their Zestimate or Z-estimate. I'm not sure how to say it. Though the recent jump is notable, the share of underwater loans is still comparable to where levels were before the pandemic and the long-term average since 2001, with the exception of the Great Recession.
Underwater mortgages are more likely to be held by people with certain types of loans, 2/3 using mortgage backed by the Federal Housing Administration and the Department of Veteran Affairs, which are typically used by first-time home buyers and military service members and veterans. FHA and VA loans allow buyers to purchase homes with a down payment of 3.5% or less of the home's price.
To be sure, even though the rising share of underwater mortgages is a troubling sign for the market, most of those owners are unlikely to be impacted if they stay put until prices go back up. In September of 25, the number of for sale listings that were removed from the market was up. Was 52% higher than the previous September. The main reason these homeowners are seeing their home values fall is the local market dynamics, meaning that the housing supply is exceeding demand. About 30% of the markets across the United States saw annual price declines as of October, with the sharpest drops in Cape Coral, Florida, North Point, Florida, and Austin, Texas. Comparing home prices in those metro areas with their peak reveals even more dramatic shifts. Austin homeowners have experienced the biggest post-pandemic bust. With the past year alone, home prices fell 4.6%. Comparing Austin market today is to the peak in May of 2022, prices are down sharply by about 22%. Wow. In other words, home prices are down nearly $130,000 between May of 22 and October of 2025. That's going to take forever for that to come back.
Staggering.
That is horrible.
Austin has been hit particularly hard by this. As we mentioned a minute ago, 7% of Austin homeowners are underwater on their mortgages. Many of those homes where the owners are underwater on their mortgages are along the commuting corridor where younger buyers bought cheaper, lower-priced homes. Those areas saw a jump in growth post-pandemic, saw a jump in growth post-pandemic, but now are seeing soaring inventory levels push prices down. Homeowners in Florida followed behind very closely. In Cape Coral, where home prices are down 15% from the peak in June of 22, 11% of mortgages are underwater. Over a third of those loans were originated in either 2023 or 2024. These underwater homes are mostly concentrated in cheaper areas that are further inland. Coastal areas prone to flood risk have been less impacted. Foreclosure rates were also the highest in Florida. In Florida, 1 in every 2,182 housing units was facing a foreclosure action in September, the highest among all states. That's a 24% increase from the same month last year. Drastic. Texas was 10th on the ranking.
That's horrible. And there have to be other factors causing this. There has to be more to this.
Something I think is at least once or twice a week, I look at houses in Florida on Zillow just because that's where my hometown is. And my guess as to why this might be the case is that when Hurricane Milton came in, it caused huge damage across Florida. I actually went down after the hurricane to help with the repair effort, and I saw flood damage, roof damage. I saw garage doors that had been ripped off of houses from the wind. And
now, are there people leaving the area and it's causing a massive amount of homes to be on the market? So there's a glut of housing?
A lot of the houses were beyond what insurance would cover, and people
So they just walked away.
That
They
makes
had
sense.
to just walk away.
That makes sense.
and they sold their nearly destroyed houses for cheap, and people flooded in to buy and flip the houses. But Florida is building hundreds of houses a day, and people, they don't want to buy a house that was flipped after storm damage for the price of a new home. I mean, it's just, why trade a damaged good for something brand new?
Yeah.
And I think people bought these damaged houses at a huge discount, and they didn't account for what they'd have to spend to get everything fixed, and ended up with a house that they put in more than it was worth, and now they're kind of in that foreclosure boat.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. Insurance in Florida is a disaster,
it's
generally
terrible.
speaking. And so many insurance carriers have pulled out of Florida entirely because it was too much risk to them. And so, the prices of the few carriers that are left are through the roof.
Yep.
And so I think that contributes to why people are running from Florida. And then Corey wants to end up in Florida. So,
And then you got all the people fleeing New York to go to Florida.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
maybe they're going to
Maybe
start
that'll help
snapping it
out.
back up and
Maybe.
take it back
Oh,
the
you
other
know what?
direction.
That's a really good point
Yeah.
because housing prices are way cheaper in Florida than New York. And so they'll probably look at it like a bargain.
right.
Yeah, a lot of the insurance places, they just stopped offering hurricane insurance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the thing that could
The
take
one
the
thing.
entire house out,
Right,
they just
is
said,
not
"Oh, well,
covered."
we're not going to
Wow.
cover that."
All righty. So more adult kids are moving back home. Who didn't see this coming? How to make it work. 46% of parents have had adult children move back home, with 38% struggling with debt, up 15% from the previous year. In this scenario, we would recommend establishing clear goals, setting financial boundaries, and regular communication. The article advises that parents should prioritize their own financial health, avoid dipping into retirement savings, and be transparent about financial limitations. The number of adult children moving back home with their parents has skyrocketed as inflation and housing costs crimp household budgets. Sharing finances with grown adults and protecting financial boundaries can be tricky. A survey by Thrivent this year found that 46% of parents have had their adult kids move back home to live with them at some point, and that's more than a third of them found it harder to save for long-term goals like retirement as a result. A whopping 38% said they were struggling to pay off debt, up from 23% the previous year. So I don't understand this because both of our kids moved back home at some point, but we made them get jobs and do chores, and it didn't affect us financially except for the food.
Yeah.
And our son, who could eat like a gorilla.
He still does. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a number of reasons this could happen, but the one thing to remember is this home belongs to the parents who own it, and they are the ones who need to set the ground rules. If a single person is moving back in, that's one set of rules. That would include things like whether you approve overnight guests, blaring music, bad language, or the use of alcohol and tobacco. There could be other items, but the terms or the boundaries need to be set before the moving truck backs up to your door. If the entire family is going to be moving back in, there must be a real sit down and a whole set of rules and a set of boundaries before the moving starts, as well as a list of responsibilities so the house continues to operate smoothly.
And I would suggest inquiring about how long they believe they'll be staying.
Oh, I agree.
It's not that you don't love them. It's just that it's a little different now that they are grown adults and they're living in your grown-up adult space. Whether it's saving to get the housing ladder, or to rent a place for their own, or searching for a new job, children should have a plan when they move back home and know when they expect to reach financial independence and move on. So some things to think about. Are they going to pay you rent? Will they do chores and help with maintenance? Do they have to be home at night by a certain hour? If money is an issue, then rent can be paid with labor, such as shopping, cleaning, or yard work. Dipping into retirement savings to fund kids' expenses should be avoided at all costs. Parents should take stock of their own financial needs and make sure that they are covered before deploying funds to children. They should also be transparent about what they can and can't afford. Another approach is to consider financial support to a child as an advance against the parent's estate.
I think that you could have any number of conversations prior to, and I think that's a good idea. But this, to me, falls into the category of very, very slippery slope, because once you allow, an adult child to move in, how hard is it going to be to kick them out? They
Yes.
might say, "Hey, I'm only going to live here for a month."
It's a tough conversation.
I'm certain of it. It's somebody you love, and you don't want to kick them back out on the street. So. Probably my guess is that if and when this happens, there's more to it than meets the eye, like addiction or can't hold down a job or something to that effect. And so it can be a very tricky, sticky situation to allow an adult to move back in with you, an adult child.
I have clients that are going through this exact thing.
I do too. It's very
and
sad.
It's extremely rough, and they don't want to just kick them out because where would they go? To a shelter? I mean, they can't seem to hold a job.
Here's something else I have even seen recently, and I'm sure you've seen your share of it too, Sherry, is when a client says, we may be taking some grandchildren with us. We may be
Yes.
taking care of them. And you can just read between the lines, you know. You don't even have to ask, but there's clearly something going on with the kids. And so it's a very sad situation.
It's rough.
You know, I think taking in grandkids, it might be a little bit different, especially when they know the entire situation. You know, if it's something like that, that is a very tough no.
I didn't mean to put it in the same category as this because
Yeah.
they do it lovingly.
I didn't think you did. But
They do it lovingly and they want to take care of their grandkids. But man, think about the financial, what you're taking on by taking on growing teenage kids or whatever the case may be. You're doing it all over again.
Yeah.
It's like you served your time once, you're in retirement or close, and now it's like, oh man, we're starting all over with taking on teenagers that drive.
The bottom, I hear what you're saying. There just needs to be a plan before you start.
For sure.
And a
Absolutely.
budget.
And a budget.
A budget. That's the hard part. So I have clients who have the grandkids all day. They're dropped off in the morning. They take them to school. They pack their lunches. They bring them home from school. They help them with their homework. They feed them dinner. I mean, they do like all of that, and the cost is pretty high.
Right.
Of feeding 4 kids who
Right.
can eat a lot of food. So they're managing it, and they can afford it. Thank God. Anyways. Parents can figure out if the advance is to be recouped, if it's to come out of the estate, or if it's to be forgiven. My dad did this. So my oldest sister needed help buying a house when she got married, so he gifted her a sum of money. Later on, my brother needed help as he was going through a divorce and needed a home, and my dad gifted land to him. This was added to my dad's will, so when he passed, the estate was equalized to take these things into consideration. And I've actually met with a lot of people lately who are helping their kids with large amounts of money, and they already have this as their plan to make sure that all the kids in the end are treated equally.
And I'm in this boat where I actually moved back in with my parents. Kind of the opposite situation, though. When I moved back home with my mom, my dad was getting restationed in Texas, and I had a younger brother that did not drive, and she couldn't maintain the house on her own. I was living in Florida, making about $1,200 a week there. So it wasn't like I needed to move back home because I didn't have the money. She needed the help, and she's done more than enough to deserve that help from her kids. And it's kind of, I've had the opposite of what this story is telling, where it's the other way around. There was one time where my parents needed to borrow some money because the government shut down. It is what it is. Dad wasn't getting paid, and they had the money that they could have done everything. It's not like it was a life or death situation, but I helped them avoid paying penalties for withdrawing the money from where they had it. It was more of a short-term fix, not like the more permanent fixes that Sherry was talking about that her parents gave, but it was just something that they needed and something that I was in a position to do.
Well, that is the best of all worlds, the best of all situations.
Right.
And we see what you do around, hearing what you do around your house. You help with the yard work, the pool, and all that stuff. So you're the exception to the rule in a lot of cases. But we do hear on occasion, people who have a child that moves back in that does all the right things.
Yeah,
and it's really
for sure.
It's really refreshing when you do hear that.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
Setting these kinds of rules on the front end, going back to the pre-Corey portion of this story, really helps separate personal from financial, which, keep it church and state. It needs to be established on the front end.
Yep. Agreed.
Yep.
Productivity among workers with access to an AI assistant increases. Hardly a week goes by without new headlines about companies using artificial intelligence to perform white-collar jobs. As more businesses begin to experiment with AI and consider how it might improve their profitability, debates about the implications for workers have intensified. In the United States, the apparent disconnect between soaring stock market valuations and falling total non-farm job openings has fueled media narratives about technology-driven job destruction.
And according to a report issued by the U.S. Senate Committee on Health, Education, and Labor, AI and automation could destroy nearly 100 million U.S. jobs over the coming decade. Those voicing fears point to prominent economists who argue that AI revolution will only have moderate effects on productivity growth, but will have clear negative effects on employment owing to the automation of many tasks and jobs. But the situation is far more complicated and not nearly as dire as these pessimistic narratives suggest. When it comes to productivity, AI can operate through two distinct channels. The first is automating tasks at the production of goods and services level, and the next is the impact on generative AI customer service functions. It has been shown that productivity among workers with access to AI assistance increased by almost 14% in the first month of use, then stabilized at a level of around 25% higher after 3 months. AI adoption can actually increase productivity gains by helping firms expand the scope of their business, which is pretty cool.
We were just having a conversation about this morning.
Yep.
And we were saying, gosh, we don't know whether to believe that AI is going to just destroy humanity or if it's going to help it tremendously.
That's
and,
right.
You know, all we can do is get out of bed in the morning and go work and do what you can do. You know, you can't change what's coming. You can embrace it. You can try to make the best of it. And like we talked about, have some faith that humanity is going to make the most of it in a positive
way.
In a positive light.
Yep.
Speaking of AI, this is a cool little blip. A big data center planned for South Korea could be built and run completely by AI. In South Korea, a $35 billion facility under development could be the world's first large-scale data center designed, built, and run by artificial intelligence. This would mark the first time that AI is integrated into the data center's entire system. Under the partnership dubbed Project Concord, AI will take charge of the data center's design, construction, and operation, from efficiently managing the use of resources like power and water to adapting quickly to different AI computing workloads. Humans will be involved, but only as supervisors, with AI acting as the decision maker, which seems a little backwards. The facility, which was announced earlier this year, is scheduled for completion in 2028. The data center project comes as the South Korean government has been pushing to expand the country's computing infrastructure.
On another note, the credit card rule that powered rewards cards just got broken. Visa and MasterCard reached a settlement on a 20-year-long legal fight with merchants, agreeing to allow stores to reject some credit cards. Premium credit cards users are in for a big surprise. Their JP Morgan Chase Sapphire Reserve and many other rewards cards could soon be rejected by merchants. A settlement between Visa, MasterCard, and merchants over a 20-year legal battle is crossing for the first time a red line for the credit card industry by breaking the network's rule that forces a store that accepts one Visa credit card to accept all Visa credit cards.
Yep. No longer would merchants have to honor all cards. Instead, they can reject cards that charge merchants bigger fees for each transaction. A concession Visa, MasterCard, and banks have balked at for ages. Big merchants have fought for many years to break the rule, making the settlement at least a big symbolic win. But they will still lack the total freedom to choose which cards they accept, leaving real-life impact unclear. For consumers, this means that many of the reward cards they have grown addicted to can be rejected at the register, while other low, no-frill credit cards, which tend to be cheaper for stores, would be accepted. And I, for one, I don't disagree with this. The change could impact the majority of credit cards, though merchants would face a difficult choice of upsetting customers or losing sales if they make the decision to reject the higher fee cards.
On merchants' possible blackout list, many airline and hotel rewards cards and general purpose rewards cards from the biggest banks, whether it's a no annual fee card that offers cash back or a top shelf card that charges hundreds of dollars in annual fees for access to travel lounges and generous points. So we use a Marriott card so we can stay there for free and have done it for years. And the other card is a Delta Sky Miles, which gives us free flights. And we have used these for years and have had a lot of free hotel stays and flights. So it'll be interesting to see if we lose all of that.
Yeah, it sounds like you might. At the root of the legal battle between merchants and networks are so-called interchange fees, which Visa and MasterCard set and that merchants pay to banks that issue the credit cards to consumers. Those fees often range between 2 and 2.5% of the purchase price, and in 2024 resulted in merchants paying $83 billion to card issuers, which was up 71% since 2019. The cost became an even bigger problem for merchants as consumers have increasingly shifted from paying with cash to paying by credit card, and in particular using rewards more often. The fees per transaction have also gone up. For the banks, interchange income has fueled the expansion of rewards as they pass the fees back to well-off consumers in the form of points, cash back, or other perks. driving increased spending on their cards and resulting in more people signing up for them.
In the lawsuit, which dates back to 2005, merchants sued Visa, MasterCard, and large banks alleging that they engaged in anti-competitive behavior with interchange fees and acceptance terms. The goal for big merchants and merchant trade groups has long been to break the honor all cards rule. And both debt and credit card acceptance, and now with the agreement, have made the first crack on the credit card rules that angered them.
So under the settlement, credit cards will fall into 3 buckets that merchants can choose to accept or reject. Those buckets are wide, however, and the most popular cards that make up a majority of spending are grouped together in one category.
This makes 4 shows in a row that we've had a credit card article. So I think to sum it all up, expect changes, especially the high traveled
Right.
stuff. Changes are coming.
The good deals are going away.
Yes.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and have a great weekend.
Great weekend. Thanks for listening to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing we do is provide retirement planning and advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. If you're looking for a financial advisor, please contact our office at 478-922-8100 to set up a free consultation. You can learn more about us by visiting our website, retirerelax.com. If you have a question or topic you'd like for us to address in a future broadcast, email Randy at rfmoney.com. We look forward to connecting with you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Osaic Wealth is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth.